My name is Jessica Bacon. As part of this presentation, I will be discussing the literacy demands in art, music, and physical education. Before I begin to discuss the literacy demands of different subject areas, I want to answer the question of what is literacy. From the Physical Educators as Teachers of Literacy articles, the quote states, "When the country's leaders, literacy professionals, and school administrators talk about literacy, they are talking about the ability to communicate effectively in a written and spoken language, the ability to read, write, speak, and listen." Literacy demands across the board require people to be able to read, write, speak, and listen. Literacy skills also allow people to communicate in a spoken language. As we know, literacy varies from different subject areas. A person can be literate when it comes to something they know much about, but what happens when they do not know much about something? Since they can speak, listen, read, and write, they can use those skills to in turn learn about new topics. Though literacy across the board is the same, there are different demands within different content areas. As in many content areas, one of the major literacy demands is vocabulary, and that holds true to literacy demands in art. The students must understand the specific vocabulary that deals with art to be able to further expand their knowledge about art. The teacher must provide the students with an understanding that there are different mediums of art, and meaning that art includes painting, drawing, performing arts, sculptures, photography, and even architecture and carpentry. The teacher must also provide the students with vocabulary for them to understand different art concepts. The vocabulary allows the students to have a deeper understanding of what they're learning and what they're actually creating. Examples of major terms fall under the categories of the principles of design, elements of arts, words found within a text for performing arts. The students must be able to understand the words that they are reading to be able to convey the words that they are reading. In the art classroom, the teacher must also provide the students with opportunities to explore art, create art, and respond to art. Once the students have adequate vocabulary knowledge in art, they'll be able to explore art deeper using vocabulary to respond to talk about what they're actually looking at. The students can look at different kinds of art and create the different kinds of art in the different mediums, and then they can evaluate and discuss different kinds of arts. The art teacher must also provide the students with an understanding of perception, meaning everybody doesn't look at art the same, and the students must understand that they can perceive art in a different way compared to someone else. And my next slide will go a little bit deeper into perception and art and how important that is within the content area of art. And finally, as stated in the article Disciplinary Literacy in Art and Design, it is important for the teacher to discuss background knowledge about the artist and the artist's purpose. Just as it is important in an English class to know the author's purpose before reading a text, the student should also study the author's purpose within the content of art to understand different information about the artist and maybe understand why they've created the different types of art that they did. As stated in the previous slide, perception is a major literacy demand in the content of art. Attached is a graphic which Julia found, and it could be utilized in the art classroom, focusing on how to perceive art. So the graphic focuses on images, but the students can use this idea of perception looking at any piece of art. So before they read anything about the artist or the art piece or anything itself, they look at the piece of art and focus on what do they notice, what feelings do they get, what does this remind them of, and what does it make you wonder about. And if you haven't noticed that those 4 different areas when you're perceiving art relate to making connections to text and questioning while reading a text. So if the students are learning about that in their English class, they can develop and use that knowledge to in turn perceive art. The literacy demands of music are similar to the literacy demands that were just discussed for art. As in any content area, vocabulary is essential to be able to be literate in that subject area. The students must understand essential vocabulary terms specifically to music. Some examples are tempo, tone, pitch, genre, instruments, and they can go on and on. Specifically for genres, the student should understand that there are different types of genres of music, so that relates vocabulary terms to actually listening to the types of music. Along with genres, it's important for the students to be able to understand their that there are different types of instruments. So again, being able to listen to an instrument being played and being able to identify that instrument. Along with common music vocabulary terms, genres, and instruments, understanding symbols is important for music, whether they are singing a song or reading music notes to play an instrument. It's important that they understand the different symbols and what they mean to be able to be literate in that music subject. And the symbols kind of remind me of science and math, to where you need to understand those symbols to be able to be literate in that content area. Once a strong understanding of vocabulary is developed, as an art, the teachers must also provide the opportunity for students to explore different kinds of music. Once they have explored different kinds of music, they should give the students an opportunity to create music of their own. This music can be in the form of songwriting and instrument playing. After they have explored music, created their own music, written, sung, or played, they should have the opportunity to respond. The teacher should give the students time to analyze and respond to the music that has already been created, and music they have created, and even sounds that they might hear. Just as is important when reading a text and important for understanding different pieces of art, understanding artists' backgrounds of purpose in music is also important for students to develop an understanding of the different types of music and maybe why the artist wrote what they wrote, lyrics-wise, or paying attention to the song notes, and it would help the students get a deeper understanding of the type of music or piece of music that they're listening to. From the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, their disciplinary literacy music site mentioned that literacy is one of the many tools that can assist in developing music skills and knowledge. Literacy tools can assist the students in developing music vocabulary, deciphering the graphic representation of sound called notes, and navigating a composition by understanding the musical roadmaps. It's up to the teacher to provide the students with the tools that they need to be successful and literate in the subject. And finally, the literacy demands in physical education again begin with vocabulary. In any content area, it's important to develop that vocabulary, the understanding of vocabulary terms, to really understand, to be able to develop literacy in that content area. Physical education vocabulary focuses around the body. The teachers must give the students proper knowledge about the human anatomy for the students to be able to learn how to take care of it. And much of the vocabulary terms focus on your body and your health. Along with vocabulary, the students must learn how to follow rules. So much of physical education instruction is speaking and listening. So the students are provided with the rules to be able to participate in a specific game or to be able to complete a task that they are supposed to be completing. To be able to understand why they're following different rules or why they're doing different things, it goes back to that vocabulary instruction on how it relates to their body and the different activities that they're doing. Along with vocabulary and following rules, a literacy demand in physical education is learning how to set goals. Going with setting goals includes record keeping. So starting off with recording what you begin with. So for example, how many sit-ups you can do in a minute, to then working out and working towards a goal, and then keeping a record of maybe weekly or monthly of how many you're meeting in that minute and what you're doing to achieve your goal. This year, my students had seen their scores from the beginning and towards the end, so they actually, in physical education, had worked on setting goals. Now, they didn't record their progress, but the gym teacher did for them. But as a teacher, they could show the students that it is important to keep records with their physical education, with setting their goals. Finally, they can use these to develop their own personal interests. So if they are into sports or different areas or different athletes, they can read about them, and again, this goes back to their understanding of vocabulary to be able to interpret and read the different articles. So sports magazines, newspapers, and things like that, the students can read outside of school, and that can focus on physical education.
The article I found was entitled Enhancing Content Literacy in Physical Education by Kathy Buell and Andrea Whitaker. The information in the article provided ways to incorporate literacy in the physical education classroom or gym. In the article, Buell and Whitaker explain, while general literacy skill is the ability to make meaning through reading, writing, visual aids, and reasoning, content literacy in physical education means that students can use general literacy skills to acquire knowledge in a specific movement, sport, or fitness context.
To be able to learn and understand more about a content area, it is important to be literate in that content area. As teachers of the content area, they must first understand the demands of the content area to be able to teach and reach their students successfully.